A lot of our decisions come right down at the last minute. And so we're going to look at that buyer's journey, as they call it. You know, the journey we go through. Once we have that need, it arises, we feel that tension. What do we do next? What is our next step? So we're going to look at that throughout the course of this slide deck, and we're going to analyze the behaviors that come into play on each of those steps. So the 4 steps in the consumer's buying behavior are: we start with a need, which we all know. You feel that itch, that need. You can create a need, or it can just start with interest, you know, something that's piqued your interest, and you move to research. So the very first thing you do after you get to the point where you feel that need is you begin to research. You look around at websites, you use your mobile device, you use your laptop. Marketers need to know and understand where you're doing your research so they can get you when you're at the point of at least looking. If they don't get to you when you're in that early stage of looking, the chances of them getting into your retrieval set or your evoke set are slim to none. After that, you begin to assess your choices. You lay out all your options. You begin to start ordering those options. You know, who you most like or want to buy, then who's second, who's third, who's fourth. And then you decide and you buy. Now, you may not buy because your need may have been resolved or gone away, or you may not be able to afford it, or there may be some other issue. But chances are, if you don't buy, it's because your need has gone away or that tension has somehow resolved. And every time we buy, we pretty much go through the same cycle. We feel a need, we do the research, we assess our options, and we decide and then buy. And it doesn't have to be an elaborate system, guys. We can do this really fast. We can do it on the fly and not take a lot of time. So now you make the decision you're going to buy. Well, you have a buying orientation, and with that buying orientation comes very specific characteristics. You could be an apathetic shopper. You just go in, you buy, and you get out. You could be an enthusiastic shopper, somebody who really loves the whole experience. It's a lot of fun to go to the store, and you enjoy every minute of it. You could be a destination shopper. You go to Walmart, you go to Brooks Brothers, you go to a particular store, and that's it. You do nothing but that. You could be a basic shopper, you know, where you just go and you buy the basics, or you could be a bargain hunter, someone who'll drive around to 2 or 3 stores because, well, you don't mind taking the extra trip because it's more important for you to save money. Within these categories are subcategories. So you can read these for yourself, but chameleons, collectors, forgers, these are the first of the 6 or so buying consumer characteristics that go along with these different styles or orientations of shopping. And on the next slide of the next 3, you can take a look through and try and figure out which one of these best describes how you buy. We've talked about environmental factors quite a bit throughout the slide deck, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. But once you're in the store, the temperature, the odors, the smells, the store design can really impact how you feel about your purchase and how you feel about the experience. I am going to go over store design because I think it's very important to understand that. There are some basic rules of thumb in design. The first is, once you cross the threshold, 90-something% of people will go to the right in a store. And they will follow a circular path as they continue down the right-hand side and come all the way around and exit through the left. You can design your store in such a way, especially if you understand how people travel throughout the course of a store. You can design it to match your brand, to match, you know, how they look, what direction their eyes go to, and make sure you have enough space in the store so you don't get the butt brush. That's where you have to brush past people's butts in order to get to the next area, and that's just not a comfortable feeling. People don't like that closeness in a store. The waiting areas are important. They need to face the merchandise. We need to buy what we can see, and the checkout should be to the left or at the end of the path. If you put it at the right, people won't make their way all the way around. So store design is very important, and how and where you put your sale items and important items is critical in store design. Grocery stores have their own type of design. Eye level midway is the most important part and the richest part, basically, of a store. 45% of end caps contain soda on them, and we usually do mental budgets. And it's hard for us to see new products if they're not highlighted somewhere, because a lot of times we're in and we're just buying exactly what we need and our go-to, so to speak. We move down the right-hand side and buy to the left. We move down the right and buy to the left. We don't like to stand too close, so we usually stand on the opposite side of an aisle and look to the opposite side. Same products usually are in several spots because of triggers, and I'm sure you're learning about that from the book. And post-health related information, 23% of people say they really care about knowing whether something is healthy for them or not healthy for them. So if you happen to sell a product that is very health conscious, or it's the differentiator, you need to make sure somewhere along the line you can get that point across. So again, several products, the same product will be found in different locations because it triggers different products. Good design that takes advantage of the buyer's journey is not limited to the retail experience in brick and mortar or in a store. It can also be utilized in an online setting or in e-commerce shopping. So when you look at websites, they have very specific designs, and the design it's not supposed to trick you. You're supposed to be able to find the things that you're accustomed to seeing, like up here in the right-hand corner, you can check out, and then in the middle of the page is the add to cart. This is pretty typical of all websites, and you don't want your website to be different than other people's, certainly not when you get to the point where you're trying to get people to buy. You want it to have a similarity, and things like free shipping on $150 and the ratings and all of these things add to a person's ability to stay on the website and continue to look around to see if they can solve their need. Keep moving them to the close, keep offering them suggestions or keep bringing them closer to understanding the benefits of the particular product that they're looking at, or choices besides that. Always keep moving them to the close, just as you would in a retail experience where they walk into the right and you want to put your checkout all the way to the left-hand side. So you may be asking, is there a value to making retail an experience? And the answer to that is yes. What you're seeing here on the screen is Bass Pro Shops. They find that by making retailing an experience, you have a 1% longer time to buy, and you enjoy the experience 1.3% more. And you're more likely to return again and again and again because there's so many things to see in that retail experience. And stores are cropping up like this. The brick and mortar was sort of going away, but now you've got these retailing as an experience stores like Bass Pro Shops, and we're seeing that this is driving people to go back to have a better retail experience. Usage in the purchase is a really important aspect. If we can understand the usage situation, we can make sure our marketing campaign or marketing strategy alludes to the reasons why you would buy in this particular usage situation. So, for example, furniture, right? You might have an apartment dweller, so you might say, look, our furniture is well made, it moves easily, and it's designed for small spaces, but it has all of the bells and whistles of large spaces. A country house, a beach house, a college dorm, right? When my daughter was going to college, I don't know how they got her name. This was a couple of years back, but man, I was bombarded with, college furniture and the refrigerator and the microwave, and don't forget the bed extenders. So if you understand the usage and you can target people based on that usage, you can do a really good job of finding the right differentiators and saying the right things. Suntan lotion in the summer and winter. So one of the things suntan lotion companies found is that people like the idea, especially if they were, swimming off of boats or in the ocean or whatever, that it had a float. It was able to float, so you could find it if you dropped it in the water. And in the wintertime, that it didn't freeze. You could be outside, you could be hiking, you could be doing outside tasks, and still your suntan lotion wouldn't freeze. You could reapply it and it would be great. So if you can understand what the situation is that somebody's buying the product for, you can use that in a way that allows you to put the differentiators front and center. We can even use situations to drive to self-esteem or self-image. Imagine that you're going to go on a first date with somebody. Would you try to impress your date? Probably. You probably would dress a certain way, and you might dress a little more upscale than you would if you knew this person really well. You might order upscale or spend a little bit more than you usually do just to impress them. And marketers can use this, right? They can put together an advertisement or a commercial that shows exactly that. It shows you dressing up, having a great first date, having an opportunity to have a second date as a result of the great first date that you have. Now consider the difference of going out with your friends. If you go out with your friends, maybe you're not really into situational self-image, right? If you go out with your boss and it's your first time out with your boss, or maybe your boss's boss, it might be situational self-image, and a marketer could use that to drive better sales. These ads are examples of exactly what I just talked about, right? The make a statement at the prom, your first date outfits and ideas, or date nights. This way you get a feel for these companies are using situations to drive the sale. So how important is price in the grand scheme of things, especially when it comes to the buyer's journey? Well, 56% of what we think about a product comes from the price that we charge for it. If our price is too low, we will automatically think there's either something wrong, or it's old stock, or it's made cheaply. If it's too high, we might think, A, I can't afford it, B, it's overpriced, or C, this store is a ripoff. So you have to be very careful how you price your products. And just look at water, right? So bottled water has this wide range. You can get a bottle of water that's $10 for a bottle of water, or you can get one that's 56 cents. Marketing has done a great job with bottled water. Fiji is one of those companies, if you've seen their commercials, right? Untouched by human hands, the finest water on earth, comes right out of the ground, and it's through an artesian system. Well, I don't want to break the news to people, but I have an artesian well, and I live in the state of New Hampshire. So the way they've marketed it and the terminology that they've used to market it sets them apart and makes people feel that their price is reasonable. It's reasonable to pay more money for Fiji because it's the best water on earth. In fact, it's the same water as everything else, but it makes you feel that way. So your price has to be in accordance with the way you're marketing your product and the image that you're setting up for people about the product and about their use of the product. Time is another huge impact on how we buy. Research shows that midday on weekends has the highest open rate for marketing emails. Likely because we're home and we're finally sitting down after a long week to look at everything that's going on in our personal space. So time, is it cultural? Yes, it is very cultural. The fastest countries in the world are Switzerland, Ireland, Germany, Japan. The slowest are Mexico, Indonesia, Brazil. You have to be patient in countries where time has a completely different parameter than in countries where we think of time as money. Since we know that we are emotional, social, sensory, irrational buyers, having an emotional connection with your product, with the consumer, is really important. We know that stories work really well, and the reason stories work really well is because they develop an emotional connection for you to the story. And so if you can use your advertising to show some type of an emotional connection, then that's even better, and you are more likely to have better sales. As an aside, good marketing always requires you to test the value proposition and always have a call to action. As you can see here, there is a call to action. You know, pick a color that's continuing to move you to the close, and then add to cart so that you can complete the sale. Calls to action, or CTAs, should exist in almost every piece of marketing collateral that we put together. Testing the value prop. If you've got 300,000 clients that you're going to send out to, what you want to do is you want to pick 3 messages and send it to a random sampling and see which one gets you the best response before you just arbitrarily decide to send something out to all 300,000. You really want to test out your value prop as often as you can. I mean, you can't always do it, but when you can, it's just good marketing. You can't assume that you know better than the consumer. As the Japanese say, go to the source. So go to the source. Always make it as easy as possible to sign up to get your emails or to get your newsletters. If you make it really challenging, you're not going to get what you want out of your website. You need to make it as easy as possible. If somebody's a returning customer and you can populate the fields without having to ask them a bunch of questions, that just makes it worth signing up, so the next time you don't have to do any of that. We are visual. We like visual over verbal every day of the week. So this is a website that has a lot of color and a lot of visual to it. So anytime you can add visuals to your website, it makes a lot of sense to do that. Thoughtful design of your website, thoughtful design of your retail experience, and looking at the buyer's journey and ensuring that you can capture people at all of the 4 levels, both when they're first getting interested in research and they're making their assessments and looking at their options. You have to have things in your website that capture people at all aspects. The beauty of somebody who's researching or looking is they're good potential buyers, as opposed to people you send an email out to. You don't have any clue whether those people are interested or not, but you do know that people who are on a website or who are in a store are likely to be searching for something. So, in conclusion, you want to make sure that your design of your web pages, design of your marketing collateral, keeps a lot of these principles in mind when you put it together. And always think about the buyer's journey. Somebody who's just beginning to become interested in your product isn't the same type of person. You don't send them the same information as somebody who's already at the point where they're making a decision to buy.